listening to the Fresh Ideas for Creative Marketing podcast, where we help you create a business you love and get the clients you deserve from anywhere in the world. Today is the fourth episode in a series specifically designed for female entrepreneurs. If you missed our first three episodes, you might want to go back and listen to them. In our series opener, we spoke with financial expert Carrie Friedberg of SF Money Coach about the ins and outs of starting your own business from a financial perspective and finding the success you dream of and really deserve. In our second episode, we spoke with Nora Pogge, director of the documentary She Started It, about having the confidence to start and run your own company. In our third episode, we spoke with Jessica Ringor, an award-winning cinematographer, on how to create your brand signature style. All of these can be found on our website, studio41creative.com. If this is your first time listening to our Fresh Ideas for Creative Marketing podcast, I just want you to know that whatever your dream career is, I'm here to help you get there. My dream has always been to have a job that allows me to work on my own schedule and travel as much as possible. A little over 5 years ago, I took the leap and started my boutique marketing agency, Studio 41 Creative. That gave me the opportunity to set my own hours and travel to Europe at least once a year, and I even got the chance to live out my dream of living in Barcelona for a bit. Another reason I travel so much is because my husband is a musician in Michael Buble's band. Because I had already been running my own business when we got married, I've been able to travel with him much of our married life, which has been one of the most fun experiences of my life, not to mention the close friendships I've made with our tour family. If you follow any of Buble's social media accounts, especially Instagram, you definitely have seen his signature style. If you've been living under a rock and haven't seen any of them, I'd like you to take a few minutes today to look at Buble's Instagram account, which is Michael Buble. There you'll see hilarious photos of the past tour and hundreds of dressing room concerts that Michael and his band performed before each of his shows around the world. Today we are speaking with Tory, who is a great friend of mine, and she has managed Michael Buble's social networks while touring for the last 5 years. Thanks to Tory's unique social media strategy, Buble has been called the only celebrity worth following by Inspire 52 Online and even won the Best Fan Engagement Award at the CBC Music Awards. Today, Tory will be sharing with us how she developed this truly rock star strategy and how you can up your Instagram game. If you found this podcast on our blog, you'll see a few of our favorite Instagram videos by Tory under this audio, and you'll clearly see Tory's signature style shining through. If you're listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, you can go to studio41creative.com/blog and check it out there. So Tory, thank you so much for joining me on our Fresh Ideas for Creative Marketing podcast.
Hi, Natalie. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You've done so much in the way of marketing for Michael Buble, but the true star of the show is his Instagram account. Instagram is one of the fastest growing social networks, and it casts the widest net as far as an audience. Some feel that Facebook is geared towards, the more older generations now, and Snapchat is geared towards the younger generations. So why do you think Instagram is so addicting for people of every age?
Yeah, the diversity of Instagram is a broad, wonderful phenomenon, as is its popularity. I think that because Instagram has such a user-friendly, intuitive approach to the app interface, it wasn't intimidating to people, and that's obviously enticing off the top to many users. They're like, hey, this is so easy. And then when you dig in and you start poking around a bit, whether we instinctively realize it, we as humans are innately social creatures. And with Instagram, we have this unique platform that we get to share what we're up to, what we're selling, that kind of thing. And we get to do it visually in a super creative manner. And being creative isn't something that everyone gets to do in their day-to-day lives or in their workplace. So it's a fun release for them. Then you kind of get in there a little bit further and you start to consider that we're now able to communicate with others in a nonverbal way. Because let's be honest, sometimes it's hard to communicate what we're feeling or tricky trying to express everything in words. And here is this, opportunity to relate your messaging in a photo aspect. And I think that that's where it really shines and it draws people in, because it helps take that initial pressure off the user in terms of what they're going to say, which of course is still important. However, it's not that first point of contact with the followers. It's the imagery. And with the zillion of camera options and filters and apps that are available, all these additions in making sort of average images spectacular gives the individual this freedom to create how that will translate to their image appearance and their account personality, which is letting that user post with their creative brain first. And I think that this helps make the posting, sharing experience lighter and more enjoyable for the user. We want to share our interesting, fun lives and depict our life moments without it being this sort of daunting task. So I think Instagram really allows people, to lighten up when sharing these moments and find enjoyment when using it. It's kind of an emotional response, which I think created this real sweet spot for their popularity.
So as I mentioned before, you created an experience on Michael Buble's Instagram account that made it one of the most engaged accounts on Instagram. How did you decide on a style to use for him?
Well, I wish it was that simple. Because, initially when I started working on Michael's Instagram, I was working in tandem with Michael, his management team, the record label. And so his Instagram in the beginning had quite a few growing pains for us. There wasn't a super clear, concise path. But once we got on the road and we were touring, we were able to streamline it. And I would initiate ideas and concept conversations with Michael. And, we would try stuff together and see what we felt resonated with us and things that represented him, honestly, as an individual. I have this sort of loose idea of how social and marketing needs to be managed, probably compared to others working in this field. But I think it's, kind of an exciting time with marketing with socials. And I think you can simply throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks sometimes. So that's literally what we did. We tried some ideas. Some just didn't get any traction, so we would just move on and try something else. I know it sounds a little bit fly by the seat of your pants, and I suppose for us it truly was. But
well, it's really good to know that because a lot of times, even as non-celebrities, we'll put something up on our Instagram account and, it might not get as many likes as we would have expected it to. And so it's good to know that even someone as famous as Michael can, have something that probably didn't necessarily flop, but it didn't work as well as other things that you had tried.
Totally. And that's kind of the mystique of social, and of course that isn't to say that having a marketing agenda or whatever isn't important because, of course it is depending on your brand and your messaging and what you're trying to, convey. But I think as long as you aren't doing something reprehensible, you can indeed try some things. And if they don't work, they often tend to just die their own quiet death on social. It's not a super big deal sometimes. People have pretty short attention spans these days. You might not even show up in their feed. You just have to try something else and move on. But for us, we ultimately did get that winner. And, we started simple with the dressing room warm-up videos, which was something that Michael, already did in his pre-show sort of rituals. So we shared those sneak peek warm-ups each night from his dressing room, and they did super well for us on all of his socials. But we used Instagram as a vehicle to drive them because they were video content, and they just took off. So we decided that we would layer that with the next phase by adding that fan interactive component, asking followers to participate with song requests in his comments under the videos. And this really brought much more excitement for the followers to post by adding that contesting aspect. It generated, tons of media buzz because there was access to his dressing room. Some celebrities joined in. It created conversation with other celebrity musicians once they saw he perform their songs. So we ended up, layering this approach and what could have just been, probably a fairly good campaign on its own with the dressing room warm-ups, adding that multiple dimension to each. Organically kind of happened, to be honest. And I think that was a huge part of his success on his Instagram. That one totally stuck.
Yeah, and it's so awesome. And listeners, if you haven't had a chance to look at these dressing room concerts or warm-up videos, you should go look at Michael's Instagram account because they're just so good. You might have to go back a while because a couple months because it's been a while since they've had one because you guys are off concert now or off tour. Sorry,
right.
but with those videos, that idea to do these videos that you posted before every show, you really set Michael apart from the rest of the celebrity accounts out there. How can our listeners, probably non-celebrity users, find something that sets themselves apart from the crowd?
Like we did with Michael, I think you need to hone in on something that speaks honestly about you or your brand. I think people are pretty smart and they can tell when something is disingenuous. So don't try to be something you're not. Don't compare yourself to others. Try to remain, a unique individual. And that's difficult to do sometimes, but I think, you just have to sort of plow through it and really identify what you want to do with that. You should be observant and pay attention to the comments of your followers. See what they're saying, what they think about your posts. Maybe they're asking you for something that you're not giving them. Treat these comments that you receive and the engagement as intel. It's an opportunity, I think, to brainstorm their ideas and see if you can apply it or tweak it into your messaging to create a dynamic campaign for yourself or your brand.
That's great. So short of being a celebrity, is there any secret to growing your Instagram following?
Gosh, I don't know. I think that you just have to create cool content, remain interesting and interested, listen to your gut and follow what it tells you. Check out what all the major players are doing. I think it's important to stay in touch with your marketplace trends and see how you can apply them in a way that's unique to your business or your identity. But again, I caution from doing anything that isn't authentic to you because it will be easily recognized. And I think that that's, sort of where some people fall short, is that they're trying to do things that aren't true for them.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about hashtags. A lot of people think that using them too much can be annoying, and I agree. If you use them too much, it is very annoying. So how can we use hashtags to our advantage, and what is the benefit of creating a custom hashtag, which has worked pretty well for Buble's dressing room videos?
Yeah, really well. Sometimes I wonder how much people understand how the hashtag operates. I have a few different thoughts on hashtags in general. But firstly, I think it's important that people not get kind of bogged down with the idea of perfection. Carving out a plan or campaign first, and definitely doing hashtag research before they apply it to their campaign.
Oh, that's something I would have never thought of. That's so smart. And I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's crazy because, sometimes a friend will get married, for example, and you'll check their hashtag, and all of a sudden you're seeing weddings that have already happened and people that have, the exact same wedding hashtag. So you're not getting that exclusivity that, sometimes that's what you're hoping for with specific, custom hashtags. So, I think, doing your research in advance is paramount. And then, depending on what your business or your brand is, creating that custom hashtag can be a really great vehicle for you and for your followers to share all the applicable moments about your campaign, your overall brand identity within a community, and, allowing to spread the word outward. I think it's important to keep it simple. Make sure you're not using anything that would date it, because sometimes you put some campaigns on a shelf and then you revisit them later at a later date, and you want to, reuse those tags if they are still, in line with that campaign. So, not dating them, not sort of putting necessarily a location on them, things like that. For me, though, it's not just about having the proper hashtag. It's also about how you use them visually. And since Instagram is about, visual connections, it's important to consider their placement. I tend to lead towards a more simplistic, clean approach to the look of Instagram posts, still inclusive of hashtags. But I have a few ideas on how to keep the individual post and copy looking as clean as possible. So I think it's important you start with your picture image, obviously. Then you add your copy, and including only probably 2 to 4 hashtags in that initial copy. The real important ones, the ones that are associated exclusively for your brand or the campaign you're driving, and then post that post, and let it be out there. Then open up the comments and follow it up in the comments area with all of the other posts, all of the other hashtags that you would normally want to include to really, broaden the scope of placement for that post individually. That way it sort of breaks up the copy and leaves the original post looking really clean itself. But on the back end in the comments, you're still getting, all the hashtags are getting to do their opportunity to spread the post and the word outside of just that tailored campaign for the individual post. So I personally think that makes it look really clean, and it's really straightforward, and it's a little bit more, gives a little bit more punch to the actual post itself.
Got it. And what aspects or areas of our business should we be putting on Instagram? I know when I started my Studio 41 Instagram account a few weeks ago, I had my own personal account, which showed, the behind the scenes of my life, really. But when I went to go start my own Instagram for my company, I wanted to, show transparency. I also wanted to, help people build their business, and I had all these goals. But then you think about, okay, now what do I post? So what should we be posting if we're a business?
It's true, and that's the thing. It's kind of, what you choose to put up there is up to you, of course, but depending on your business model and your agenda, that's where you have to, like you're saying, you have to really figure out sort of what that's going to be. Personally, I think that it should be, your Instagram account in general should all be sort of considered content. Your Instagram should sort of look curated. If you're aiming to use it for your business, or if you're a commodity, I think it's important to be mindful of how your overall account looks to portray your image effectively. You can make creative choices right from the conception of your account, sort of like what you were saying. And I mean, I've looked at your account, I'm familiar with it, and it's definitely curated account. And it has, it definitely lets people know, sort of what the messaging is. And you did that from the conception of that account, I believe, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But, your hands aren't tied, right? Like, you don't have to create a vibe to your account straight away. You can still do it today, tomorrow, whatever. But more and more, people are starting to have these sort of uber curated accounts. And I find that they really make you feel something. And that's the desired effect of having the curated content on the account. And I think, like we've talked about, with Instagram primarily being a nonverbal communication on the face, using those strong content images stylistically will initially attract the viewers to check out, your page and understand your overall, appearance, and the account collectively will start to provide insight about your business and the culture. But I think that there are many ways that you can do this. You need to find what works for you, and remember, it's an opportunity to get your creative juices flowing. Of course, there may be some stuff you want to post that might not be 100% great for your Instagram model, but you still want to share it. So perhaps that's where, Snapchat or Facebook would be a better served option for that, because it's about, placing the content within the appropriate demographic, like you referenced in the beginning. But, at the end of the day, it's super, super paramount to keep in mind that you have overall messaging happening between your multi-platforms, and so the tone should really remain intact across them all. That's not to say that your Instagram has to look like your Facebook has to look like, because they're all so different, but just that the sort of message itself remains the same.
So are there any programs that we could use to improve our Instagram marketing strategy that you know of?
I like to use Hootsuite. have you heard of Hootsuite?
Oh, yeah. I use Hootsuite actually for scheduling.
Oh, you do?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Cool. I like Hootsuite. I think it offers, all the access to your socials at once, or if you manage multiple accounts, you can toggle easily between your platforms and collaborate with teammates if you are sharing, work accounts. And you're able to do that for yourself too. If you're a sole proprietor, it would still be a good fit. It has kind of the same benefits. It allows you to see all your social presences, at once. And it offers the analytical reports on the back end so you can measure your social performance. It has great flexibility because you can actually schedule messages and advance campaigns. So if you wanted to take that vacation, it doesn't seem so stressful because you can kind of, pre-book what you're going to send out.
Wow, that's great. I love Hootsuite. I was just telling you before our call that I'm on my way out the door after this to Nashville for 3 days, and all of my clients' work is already scheduled for the next few days in Hootsuite. So it's so great. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it's great.
Perfect.
Well, Tory, you are amazing, and you've really given us a huge insight into Instagram marketing and social media marketing as a whole. How can our listeners stay in touch with you?
Oh, they can, keep up with me on all my socials. It's at Tory on Tour. Probably the easiest.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Is there any one piece of advice or wisdom you can leave with our listeners before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I would say, always make sure if it's for your business that you're starting out with a strong brand message and that you have that in place. And do your best to stay on program. If you make a mistake with your socials and it's bad, delete it. Don't beat yourself up about it. You can learn from your mistakes and grow. You just have to regroup and try again. Come to think of it, I would actually just apply this to your life in general, not just your socials and marketing. Things just get in the way sometimes, and things happen, and you have to just learn from it and roll with it. Have fun.
Right, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being generous with your advice. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much, Natalie. It was my pleasure.
Now, Tory and I would like to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's podcast? Please leave a comment on our blog, which can be found at Studio41Creative/blog. Also, you might be interested to know that registration for my 6-week marketing bootcamp is now live. In this course, you'll learn everything you need to know about starting your own business, how to work from anywhere in the world, and of course, live the life and make the salary you know you deserve, all by mastering online marketing and branding. This course is a multimedia course, which means that lessons will be given through live Google Hangouts, video courses, worksheets, and even up-to-the-minute Q&As in our Marketing Rockstars Facebook group. All the information you need, including how to register, can be found at yoursocialmediaacademy.com. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to this podcast and, of course, share it with all of your friends. For more fresh ideas for creative marketing, visit Studio41Creative.com.
Studio 41 Creative.